The alarm inside NexCore Technologies would not stop screaming. Blood-red warning lights painted the glass walls in waves of panic. Computer screens blinked on and off like dying stars. The main control board in the operations center flashed a single word in furious crimson letters: breach. Telephones rang everywhere. Voices overlapped in chaos. The entire building pulsed with terror. David stood at the center of the storm. A billionaire dressed in an expensive gray suit. His tie hung loose. His hands refused to be still. This was everything he had built. This was the technology company that employed 2,000 families. This was the software he created as a hungry young man with nothing but hope and sweat. Now it crumbled before his eyes. "Everything's offline," a software engineer shouted. His voice cracked. "Payment systems, client databases, even our emergency backups. We're completely locked out," another voice added. His face was slick with fear. "Whoever built this attack knows exactly what they're doing. They're inside our own network." David felt his lungs squeeze tight. How long until we're operational again? Silence. He turned slowly, deliberately. "How long?" A senior engineer swallowed hard. "Sir, we honestly don't know." The worst message appeared on the giant screen at the front of the room. "Transfer $5 million or lose everything." A countdown timer began ticking. 1947, 1946, 1945. 20 minutes. David's breath caught in his throat. If that clock reached zero, they would lose client contracts, critical data, and every shred of trust they'd built over 15 years. Their business partners would walk away. The company's stock would collapse. Thousands of people would lose their jobs. He thought of his wife Rebecca waiting at home. He thought of their peaceful breakfast that morning. He thought of the promise he made to his late mother before she died. "Take care of people, David. Never let those who depend on you go hungry." His phone buzzed. A small sound in a hurricane. It was his driver. "Sir, there's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent. About the security breach." David frowned. "Who?" "Sir, he looks like a beggar. But he's insisting he can help." For a moment, David almost laughed. A beggar? During the worst crisis of his life? But desperation makes men consider impossible things. "Send him up," David heard himself say. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime. A man stepped out. Torn clothes hung from his thin frame. His feet were bare and dusty. His hair was wild and uncombed. He carried nothing but a small plastic bag. The smell of the streets followed him into the pristine war room. Engineers turned and stared. Some wrinkled their noses. Others whispered to each other. The beggar's eyes swept across the chaos. The panicked faces. The cascading code on giant screens. The blood-red countdown timer burning like a wound on the wall. 1832, 1831, 1830. "You're the owner?" the beggar asked. His voice was rough but steady. David nodded slowly. "Yes. I'm David Okafor." "Who are you?" "My name is James," the beggar said. He took 2 steps forward. "And I can stop this attack." The room went silent. Then someone laughed. A young engineer in the back, exhausted and afraid, let out a sharp, bitter sound. "Sir," the engineer said, still laughing. "With all respect, we don't have time for jokes. This man probably doesn't even know what a computer is." Others nodded. A few smiled nervously. David raised his hand. The laughter died. "James," David said carefully, "how do you know about our security breach?" James pointed at the main screen. "Because I've been watching your company for 3 months. I sleep under the bridge near your staff parking lot. Every night, I see cars leave late. I hear engineers talking. 2 weeks ago, I heard someone on the phone. He was angry. He said he would make this company pay for firing him." David's heart skipped. Who said that?" "I don't know his name," James replied. "But I know his voice. And I know what he's doing to your systems right now." A senior engineer stepped forward. "Even if that's true, what can you possibly do? We have 20 of the best cybersecurity experts in Nigeria in this room. They're all stuck." James looked at the countdown. 1708, 1707. I can help, he said simply. If you let me try. Another engineer shook his head. Sir, this is insane. We can't let a homeless man touch our servers. He could make things worse, someone else added. David stared at James. At his torn clothes. His bare feet. His calm, unwavering eyes. The timer ticked down. 1643, 1642. David thought about his mother's voice. Sometimes help comes from places you don't expect. He took a deep breath. Give him a workstation, David said. What? Multiple voices exploded at once. I said give him a workstation, David repeated, louder now. We're out of options. We try everything. A chair rolled back from a computer desk. James walked toward it slowly. Engineers stepped aside, watching him like he was a creature from another world. James sat down carefully. He placed his plastic bag on the floor. His dirty hands hovered over the clean white keyboard. He paused. Sir, James said softly. May I? David nodded. Do what you need to do. James's fingers touched the keys. And the room held its breath. James's fingers moved across the keyboard. Slow at first. Then faster. Each keystroke was precise, deliberate, like a musician who hadn't played in years but still remembered every note. The young engineer who laughed earlier leaned forward, squinting at the screen. His smile faded. What is he doing? Someone whispered. James didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the monitor. Lines of code scrolled past. Green text on black background. He opened a command terminal and typed a string of characters that made the senior engineer's eyebrows lift. That's a root access protocol, the senior engineer said quietly. How does he know that? James kept typing. His hands were dirty, fingernails cracked and black with grime, but they danced across the keys with absolute confidence. He pulled up a network map. The entire company's digital infrastructure spread across the screen like a glowing spiderweb. Red dots pulsed in several locations. Infected nodes. Points of attack. There, James said, pointing at a cluster of red dots in the eastern section of the map. That's where they entered. Through your email server. Someone opened a file they shouldn't have. The senior engineer moved closer. Our email server has triple layer protection. How could anyone? Because the file was sent from inside, James interrupted. From someone with admin access. The room went cold. David stepped forward. What are you saying? James looked up at him. I'm saying this isn't just a hacker attack. Someone who works here helped them get in. Murmurs rippled through the war room. Engineers glanced at each other with suspicion and fear. That's impossible, a woman in glasses said. We've all been with this company for years. We're family. Family can betray you, James said quietly. He turned back to the screen. Especially if they're angry enough. The countdown timer burned on the wall. 14:15, 14:14, 14:13. Can you stop it? David asked, his voice tight. James nodded once. I can. But I need to trace the source first. If I just shut down the attack, they'll trigger a failsafe. Everything will be wiped clean. We need to trap them. How? The senior engineer asked. James's fingers flew across the keyboard again. I'm going to create a false pathway. Make them think they're winning. While they're busy celebrating, I'll close the real door behind them. He typed commands faster now. Opening windows, closing others, building something invisible to everyone except him. This is advanced, the senior engineer muttered, almost to himself. This is military-grade strategy. James didn't respond. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His breathing quickened. On the screen, a new pathway opened. A glowing green tunnel that branched off from the main network. James fed it fake data. Numbers, files, passwords that looked real but led nowhere. Come on, James whispered. Take the bait. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then one of the red dots moved. Slowly, cautiously. It crept toward the green tunnel James had created. They're testing it, the senior engineer said. James nodded. Let them feel safe. The red dot touched the entrance of the tunnel. Then dove inside, moving faster now, greedy. Got you, James whispered. His fingers hammered the keyboard. Code streamed past too fast for most people to read. But the senior engineer was reading, and his face went pale. He's building a cage, the engineer breathed. He's letting them steal fake data while he locks every exit. James hit enter. On the screen, the green tunnel collapsed. The red dot froze. The countdown timer stuttered. 12:47, 12:48, 12:47. It was glitching. What's happening? David asked. They know they're trapped, James said. They're trying to force the countdown. Trying to crash everything before I can stop them. He opened another window. His hands moved so fast they blurred. I need 30 more seconds, James said through clenched teeth. The timer jumped. 12:47, 9:33, 6:15. They're accelerating it, someone shouted. James. David's voice cracked. I know, James muttered. His eyes never left the screen. Just hold on. He typed one final command. A long string of code that filled 3 lines. His finger hovered over the enter key. The timer hit 5 o'clock. 4:59, 4:58. James closed his eyes, took a breath, and pressed enter. The main screen went completely black. Every monitor in the war room died at once. The alarms stopped screaming. The red lights froze. Total silence. No, David whispered. No. Then the screens flickered. Twice. They came back to life. But this time, they glowed green. Helvet. System after system reported normal status. The network map rebuilt itself, and the red dots were gone. Vanished. At the top of the main screen, 2 words appeared in bright, beautiful green. Threat neutralized. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then the room exploded. Cheers. Shouts. People hugging each other. One engineer fell to his knees and covered his face with his hands. The woman in glasses started crying and laughing at the same time. David stood frozen, staring at the screens. At the green words. At the beggar sitting calmly at the workstation with his dirty hands resting on the keyboard. Slowly, David walked toward James. James stood up. He was shorter than David. Thinner. His clothes smelled like rain and garbage. But his eyes were clear and steady. David didn't say anything. He just opened his arms and pulled James into a hug. James stiffened. Like he'd forgotten what a hug felt like. Then he relaxed. And hugged back. Thank you, David whispered, his voice breaking. Thank you for saving everything I've built. When they pulled apart, David saw tears on James's face. The young engineer who laughed earlier stepped forward. His head was down. Shame burned on his cheeks. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I shouldn't have. I didn't know. James nodded. It's okay. People see what they expect to see. The senior engineer approached slowly, respect in his eyes. Where did you learn to do that? I've never seen anyone work that fast. James looked down at his hands. At the dirt under his nails. I used to be someone else, he said softly. David touched his shoulder. James, who are you? Really? James was quiet for a long moment. The room waited. Finally he spoke. I was a senior cybersecurity analyst. I worked for the Central Bank of Nigeria. I designed their entire protection system. His voice was steady but sad. 5 years ago, I uncovered a theft. Millions of naira stolen by people in high positions. I reported it. I did the right thing. He paused. And they destroyed me for it. They called me a liar. They said I fabricated evidence. They fired me and made sure no one else would hire me. My wife left. My children stopped speaking to me. I lost my house. I lost everything. The room was silent. I ended up on the streets, James continued. No one would listen to me. No one believed me. So I disappeared. I became invisible. David felt his throat tighten. James, But I never stopped watching, James said, looking up now. I watched companies. I watched systems. I saw attacks coming before they happened. And sometimes, when I could, I tried to help. He smiled sadly. Nobody ever listened. Until today. David's heart broke and swelled at the same time. He opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, his phone rang. David answered. His assistant's panicked voice came through. Sir, the clients are calling. The investors are demanding answers. What should I tell them? David looked at James. At the beggar who saved his empire. Tell them, David said slowly, that we were attacked by professionals. And we were saved by someone even better. He ended the call and turned to face his entire team. Listen to me, all of you, David said, his voice carrying authority. Today we learned something important. Talent doesn't always come in expensive suits. Genius doesn't always have a university degree. And sometimes the people we overlook are the ones who save us. He walked over to James and took his hand. James, I don't know exactly what happened to you 5 years ago. But I know what I saw today. I know what you did for us. David paused, looking James in the eyes. I'm offering you a job. At NexCore. As our chief security officer. Full salary. Full benefits. And I'm paying for you to have a place to live. A real home. Whatever you need to get back on your feet. The room went silent. Everyone stared. James's mouth opened. No sound came out. You saved 2,000 jobs today, David said gently. Let me save yours. James covered his face with his hands and wept. Great, heaving sobs that came from somewhere deep inside. Years of pain. Years of rejection. Years of being invisible. David hugged him again and let him cry. The engineers stood quietly, witnessing something sacred. The young one who laughed earlier had tears in his eyes too. Finally, James pulled back. He wiped his face with his torn sleeve. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you for seeing me. David smiled. Thank you for being someone worth seeing. A slow clap started. The senior engineer. Then another person joined. Then another. Soon the entire room was applauding James. A standing ovation for the beggar who became a hero. 3 days later, James stood in the lobby of NexCore Technologies. But this time, he looked different. He wore a clean suit. Polished shoes. His hair was cut. His face was shaved. David had taken him shopping, paid for a hotel room, and given him time to rest and recover. James carried a briefcase. Inside were his new employee documents. His security clearance. His office keys. He took the elevator up to the top floor. The doors opened to reveal the war room where everything had changed. But now it was quiet. Peaceful. Screens glowed green. Systems hummed with health. David was waiting for him with the senior engineer and the woman in glasses. Welcome to your first official day, David said, shaking his hand. Thank you, sir, James replied. Please, call me David. We're colleagues now. James smiled. It still felt surreal. The senior engineer stepped forward. Mr. Okoro, I've prepared a full report on our current security infrastructure. I'm ready to learn from you. The woman in glasses nodded. We all are. You showed us things we never knew were possible. James felt humbled. I'm looking forward to working with all of you. David led him down the hall to a corner office. Large windows overlooked Lagos. A massive desk. New computer equipment. Everything gleaming and perfect. This is yours, David said. James walked in slowly, almost afraid to touch anything. He remembered sleeping under the bridge. The cold concrete. The hunger. The fear. And now this. I don't know what to say, James whispered. You don't have to say anything, David replied. Just build us the best security system in Africa. I know you can do it. James nodded, determination filling his chest. Over the next 3 months, James transformed NexCore's security. He rebuilt every system from the ground up. He trained the entire team in advanced protection protocols. He implemented safeguards that made the company virtually unhackable. Word spread through the tech industry. The beggar who became a security genius. News outlets wanted interviews. Other companies tried to recruit him. But James stayed loyal to David. To the man who saw him when he was invisible. One afternoon, James sat in his office reviewing code when his phone rang. An unknown number. He answered cautiously. Hello. James? James Okoro? The voice was familiar but he couldn't place it. Yes, who is this? It's Sarah. Your wife. Your ex-wife. James's heart stopped. He hadn't heard her voice in 5 years. Sarah, he breathed. I saw you on the news, she said, her voice shaking. The story about NexCore. About what you did. James said, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have stood by you. James closed his eyes. Old pain flickered, but it didn't burn like it used to. I was scared, Sarah continued, crying now. Everyone said you were guilty. The evidence looked so real. I didn't know what to believe and I abandoned you. I took the children and I left you when you needed me most. James took a long breath. Sarah, I understand. It looked bad. I looked guilty. You were protecting our children. But you weren't guilty, she sobbed. You were telling the truth the whole time, and I didn't believe you. Can you ever forgive me? James looked out his window at the Lagos skyline. He thought about the streets below. The bridge where he slept. The hunger. The loneliness. He thought about the anger he used to carry. How heavy it was. How it poisoned everything. Yes, James said quietly. I forgive you. Sarah cried harder. Thank you. Thank you, James. How are the children? James asked. They're teenagers now. They ask about you sometimes. They saw you on TV too. They're proud of you. James felt tears on his own face. Can I see them sometime? Yes, Sarah said immediately. Yes, please. They want to see you. I want them to know their father. The real you. Okay, James said. We'll arrange something. Take it slow. Thank you, James. For being better than I was. After the call ended, James sat in silence for a long time. He felt something break open inside him. Something that had been locked tight for 5 years. Forgiveness. Not just for Sarah. For everyone. For the people at the central bank who destroyed him. For the system that failed him. For the world that stopped seeing him. He forgave them all. Because carrying anger was like carrying chains. And he was finally free. That evening, David invited James to dinner at his home. A beautiful house in Ikoyi. Rebecca, David's wife, welcomed James with a warm hug. I've heard so much about you, she said. You're a hero. I'm just a man who got a second chance, James replied. Over dinner, David made an announcement. James, Rebecca and I have been talking. We want to start a foundation. The Second Chance Foundation. To help people who've fallen through the cracks. People like you. We want you to help us run it. James set down his fork. Me? Who better? Rebecca said gently. You know what it's like. You know what people need. Not just money but dignity. Someone who believes in them. James felt overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say yes, David smiled. Yes, James said, his voice strong. Yes, absolutely yes. 6 months after that first terrible day, the Second Chance Foundation opened its doors. It provided job training, housing assistance, mental health support, and legal help for people experiencing homelessness and poverty. James worked there every weekend. He met people on the streets, talked to them, listened to their stories, helped them believe in themselves again. One Saturday morning, he met a young man sitting under the same bridge where James used to sleep. What's your name? James asked. Michael, the young man said, not looking up. I'm James. I used to sleep here too. Right where you're sitting. Michael looked up, surprised. James sat down beside him. What happened to you, Michael? I lost my job. Couldn't pay rent. My family turned their backs on me. I have a degree in accounting, but no one will hire me now. I have no address. No way to clean up for interviews. I'm stuck. James nodded. I understand. I've been exactly where you are. But Michael, listen to me. This doesn't have to be your ending. It can be your turning point. He handed Michael a card. Come to this address on Monday morning. We'll help you. Job training. Interview clothes. A place to stay while you get back on your feet. And people who believe in you. Michael stared at the card, tears filling his eyes. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. Because someone helped me when I had nothing, James said. And now it's my turn to help you. Michael broke down and cried. James put an arm around his shoulders and let him. 1 year after the attack, NexCore held a company anniversary celebration. The entire staff gathered in the main hall. David stood at the podium. Last year, we almost lost everything, David said to the crowd. We were attacked. We were vulnerable. We were minutes away from collapse. But we were saved by a man we almost turned away. A man we judged by his appearance instead of his character. He gestured to James, who stood at the side of the stage. James Okoro taught us that value isn't determined by clothes or credentials. It's determined by courage, skill, and heart. He saved this company. And then he helped us build something bigger. A foundation that's changed hundreds of lives. The crowd applauded. James, please come up here, David said. James walked to the podium, uncomfortable with the attention. David handed him a plaque. For extraordinary service and unshakable integrity. Thank you for reminding us what really matters. The applause grew louder. People stood. The ovation lasted for minutes. When it finally quieted, David turned to James. Do you want to say anything? James looked out at the faces. Engineers who once doubted him. Staff who once looked away. Now they looked at him with respect. He took a breath and spoke. A year ago, I was invisible. I slept under a bridge. I ate from trash bins. I had nothing. But I never stopped believing that my life had purpose. That somewhere, somehow, I could still make a difference. He paused. David gave me a chance when no one else would. He saw me when I was invisible. And that changed everything. Not just for me, but for everyone the foundation has helped since then. James looked directly at the young engineer who laughed at him that first day. I don't blame anyone for doubting me. I looked like nothing. But I learned something important on those streets. Your circumstances don't define you. Your response to them does. You can become bitter or you can become better. The choice is always yours. He held up the plaque. This isn't just mine. It belongs to every person who's ever been overlooked, dismissed, or forgotten. It belongs to everyone fighting to prove they matter. Because you do matter. Every single one of you. The room was silent. Then the applause started again, even louder this time. After the ceremony, James walked through the building. Past his office. Past the war room. To the elevator. He rode down to the lobby and walked outside. The sun was setting over Lagos. The city glowed gold and orange. Traffic hummed. People rushed past. Life moved forward. James stood there for a moment, breathing it in. His phone buzzed. A text from Michael, the young man he met under the bridge. Mr. James, I got the job. Starting Monday. Thank you for believing in me. James smiled and typed back, I'm proud of you. Keep going. Your story is just beginning. He looked up at the NexCore building towering above him. At the life he'd rebuilt from nothing. He thought about the journey. From the central bank to the streets. From invisible to invaluable. From beggar to hero. But more than that, from bitter to better. That was the real miracle. Not the job or the office or the acclaim. The miracle was choosing hope over hate. Forgiveness over fury. Purpose over pain. James walked toward his car. His driver waited with the door open. Home, Mr. Okoro? Actually, James said, take me to the foundation. I have work to do. Because somewhere in Lagos tonight, another person was sleeping under a bridge. Another person felt invisible. Another person needed someone to believe in them. And James Okoro would be there. Not because he was a hero, but because he remembered what it felt like to be forgotten. And he refused to let anyone else stay invisible. His phone rang. David's name appeared on the screen. James, there's a tech conference next month. They want you to speak. Tell your story. What do you say? James looked out the window at the streets passing by. At the people struggling. At the lives waiting to be changed. Tell them yes, James said. It's time more people heard that second chances are real. That's what I thought you'd say, David laughed. See you Monday. See you Monday, James replied. The car moved through the city. The sun finally set. Darkness came. But James wasn't afraid of the dark anymore. He'd lived in it long enough to know that light always comes. You just have to keep believing. Keep fighting. Keep choosing to be better. And eventually, the dawn breaks. Sometimes the people we overlook are the ones who save us. Sometimes the help we need comes from unexpected places. And sometimes the greatest redemption isn't proving others wrong, it's proving yourself right. Everyone deserves to be seen. Everyone deserves a second chance. Never let your circumstances define your worth. Subscribe if you believe everyone deserves a second chance. Comment, everyone deserves respect, if people like those corrupt officials disgust you. Share this story if you've ever felt invisible and want others to know they matter.